bleeding into the tumor, potential for a stroke.
It was pretty scary. This is serious, and we have to deal with this.
We don't know what's going to happen.
This was not something that just would go away with a pill.
There's just this feeling of helplessness. There's nothing I could do about it.
This is not how I want to live my life.
Welcome to The Incurables. I'm Don Wildman. It's perplexing when a seemingly healthy young woman finds herself suddenly deteriorating. Worse yet is when she's told that even if she does survive her illness, she most likely will never bear children. Fabienne Tobeck was a gifted filmmaker in Hollywood when the effects of a devastating illness broadsided her. Unwilling to settle for conventional answers, Fabienne integrated the best of Western and Eastern medicine to battle a tumor that threatened to take away her hope.
I had just gotten married. This was the beginning of life, of procreation and having kids. I just remember really being upset.
We went to see this doctor, and this doctor suggested that some of the issues that she was starting to have sounded like it might be a tumor. I think we were both we were vividly not ready to consider it.
For her, she feels that's very scaring, you know, like life and death.
There's the fear that I don't want to have a brain tumor. What does that mean?
There's potential for damage to the patient's vision through the optic nerve. There's potential for bleeding into the tumor, potential for much more serious consequences.
This is kind of serious. She realizes that we have to take care of it, otherwise we don't know what's going to happen.
When the first doctor suggested that she might have a tumor, you react against the just sort of pessimism that seems to accompany, well, all these bad things could happen to you. And immediately you assume, well, all these bad things will happen.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what this meant for my life as a whole.
Fabienne was born in the Flatbush section of Brooklyn, New York. Her parents divorced when she was young, and Fabienne was raised by her mother. A new world of art and culture opened up when the pair moved to Greenwich Village when Fabienne was 8.
I went to this very progressive elementary school in the West Village, and there were kids from all over the world. It was just this very diverse, eclectic community. It was the first time as also being biracial, the first time I really felt at home. I was the first generation American. My mother's from Switzerland. Every summer I spent my vacation with my grandmother in Switzerland. I speak fluent French.
Growing up in New York City was very exciting for Fabienne. In most ways, she was very happy and healthy, but she did begin to suffer headaches at an early age.
The migraines pretty much started when I was 9. I would sit in a chair, and the view from our apartment I could see into New Jersey. So I would just look at the lights at night and just sit there. And sometimes they would pass, and sometimes I'd fall asleep in the chair.
After attending the renowned High School for Music and Art in Manhattan, it was time for Fabienne to explore new surroundings. In the mid-'80s, Fabienne headed to Los Angeles to pursue the Hollywood dream. She started working in film production and became completely enthralled with every aspect of movie making. Then Fabienne got her big break. In a turn of incredibly great fortune, she was offered a high-profile position at a major film studio. At about the same time, she met Jeremy Tobeck, a dashing young Princeton grad looking to make his way as a rock and roll musician.
When I first met Fabienne, I was the guy with the bad car and no job. and she was working at Columbia Pictures as the assistant to the president. I would say she was kind of an ambitious Hollywood insider, which in itself seemed both repulsive and intriguing to me. I think intriguing won out.
Fabienne and Jeremy were married in 1995. It should have been a happy time for the couple, but Fabienne's health began to decline.
At that point, I started to getting a lot more frequent migraines, started developing an ulcer, chronic back pains, hormonal imbalances. I thought, well, I work a very stressful job. It's going to impact me physically, the demands of my job.
She definitely had job-related stress stuff going on.
Fabienne began seeing numerous doctors who prescribed a battery of drugs to deal with her symptoms.
I was taking Vicodin for my back, I was taking hormone replacement for the imbalance of my hormones, and just kind of trying to keep my head above water.
Desperate to feel better, Fabienne gave up her position at the film studio, but nothing seemed to help.
Maybe this isn't just stress. Maybe this is something more.
Suffering from headaches, hormonal imbalances, and crushing fatigue, Fabienne knew something had gone terribly wrong.
One of the ways that I realized that something was wrong is that I did a monthly breast exam and I was secreting milk.
Concerned the milky discharge might be a sign of breast cancer, Fabienne immediately made an appointment with her doctor.
She did some blood tests and found that I had an extremely elevated prolactin level. The prolactin hormone gets secreted primarily when you have just delivered a child. And since I wasn't pregnant and had not delivered a child, there are several possibilities. And one of those is that you could possibly have a brain tumor.
Hoping to rule out the worst-case scenario, Fabienne's doctors ordered a CAT scan, but the results confirmed their greatest fears.
I did the CAT scan, and it came back. I had a brain tumor.
Scans revealed a large mass pressing against Fabienne's pituitary gland.
Fabienne had a prolactinoma, which is a tumor of the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland in the brain makes many different hormones. Prolactin is only one of them. The risk is if the prolactinoma grows and isn't diagnosed or treated, that the person could have ultimately blindness, ultimately other problems related to brain tumors.
Once I had the CAT scan and there was physical proof that there was a tumor there, it was pretty intense. I remember mostly feeling pretty adrift. I didn't know what to do.
Fabienne's doctors recommended she take a dopamine-blocking medication to help shrink the tumor.
I started taking those pills, and I just remember it, like the side effects of the pills. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, really dizzy. I still had a lot of migraines. It was not a great time.
I just remember sitting there in doctors' offices and having the negative aspects thrown at you.
I wasn't being given the best news.
Amid all the dire possibilities, Fabienne and Jeremy found one prognosis particularly difficult to bear.
The neurologist said, matter of factly, you'll have to take the drugs for your entire life. I doubt you'll ever be able to conceive. And if you do conceive, I doubt you'll hold a pregnancy to term.
We just had a lot of fear about it. I certainly did. The idea that that could even be a possibility.
My mouth just fell open. I couldn't believe, one, that his delivery of this information to a young woman would be so harsh.
Unwilling to take medications that could essentially leave her infertile, Fabienne discontinued her drug treatments.
I stopped taking the drugs for 3 or 4 months. We did another test, and of course the tumor had gone back to its original size. I think that was the moment I realized, I got to do something else. I can't be on drugs for the rest of my life.
She sort of took the bull by the horns and started doing all this research and figuring out very assertively what to do about it.
I started doing some research. What I was really looking for is one course of therapy that I could authentically pursue. The thing that resonated most with me was Chinese medicine.
Fabienne was so methodical about the way that she had done her research that when she came back and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do Chinese medicine because it likes to treat the symptom, but it also believes in invasive measures if necessary.
At that point, I had made a couple of decisions. One, I did not want to take drugs for the rest of my life. And two, I wanted to take the tumor out. I wanted it removed.
Fabienne faced the prospect of having delicate brain surgery, but first she was determined to treat the underlying causes of her tumor through natural means.
Before I even dealt with this issue surgically, I wanted to deal with it holistically. So I asked a friend who was in massage school at the time, like, find me the best acupuncturist in this city. I found this amazing Chinese acupuncturist.
Trained in acupuncture and herbal medicine, Xiaomei Zhang immediately saw that Fabienne was near collapse.
When she first came to my office, I sensed she crashed from her physical, emotional condition. It's not only just the diagnosis of the tumor in the pituitary glands. I just feel like she's like in a life crisis. For her, she feels that's very scaring, like life and death.
The specter of living with a brain tumor weighed heavily on Fabienne. But rather than panic, she trusted her conviction that the underlying cause needed to be addressed before she traveled any further down the medical road she was on. She faced that journey with tenacity and amazing courage.
My goal in seeking out this amazing acupuncturist was to deal with the holistic issues as to why my body had produced a tumor.
She didn't realize she was working too hard before, overworking, stressed out.
When she examined Fabienne, Dr. Zhang determined she had energy blockages and imbalances in many systems of her body.
She was really in bad shape.
I started a regime of going to the acupuncturist 3 times a week.
We use acupuncture. Sometimes we use some cups. Those are very natural tools to promoting the body to do their work.
Dr. Zhang used acupuncture to restore the flow of energy, what the Chinese call qi, through Fabienne's body. Dr. Zhang also formulated a custom mix of herbs to help bring balance to Fabienne's system.
For her, we mainly use the tea, like you have those raw plants. Then we mix together, more than 10 kinds. Then she cooks them and drinks them. Those are very traditional way of preparing, very powerful.
Twice a day, Fabienne would methodically prepare the potent herbal teas formulated by Dr. Zhang.
Never in the years that I did the acupuncture did I ever feel like I was taking a soft step in this pursuit. It was always with serious dedication.
She's kind of serious. She recognized that. That's why she takes much more serious, would say, than a lot of people would do.
Fabienne responded very well to treatment with Chinese medicine. After 8 months, she finally felt strong enough to take the next step.
After my acupuncture regime, I started being comfortable with the idea of having brain surgery. And at this point, I started pursuing finding a neurosurgeon that would do this.
For her to have surgery for pituitary glands, I think it's necessary. We tried different ways. For that case, we work together, if she can have surgery to remove some of the tumor.
Now we're all of a sudden marrying Eastern medicine with Western medicine.
Well, for severe cases, we do need to have Western medicine combined together.
Leading up to the surgery, I started getting nervous because now I've worked really hard, and I liken it to preparing for a marathon. You do a lot of work up to the marathon, and then the day of, you're like, can I do this?
I don't doubt that she went into that surgery with a lot, as strong as she could have been and as ready for it as she could have been.
Here we go.
The day of the surgery was filled with high anxiety, but Fabienne and Jeremy resolved to maintain a positive outlook despite their fears of what lie immediately ahead.
The surgery was happening and we were up in San Francisco. All of a sudden I realized, wow, she's unconscious. And this is, I mean, anything could happen.
Fortunately, the surgery to remove Fabienne's pituitary tumor was successful, but she was left physically exhausted.
I remember there being a lot of pain because the brain doesn't feel anything, but it's like all the surrounding tissues that do. We didn't really quite understand what the recovery was like. I was in bed for a week. I felt terrible. My body had been pumped up with like all these drugs, and then I was kind of withdrawing from them.
She's a little tired from it, have some different symptoms, really, because surgery is still surgery. But we actually help her recover quite quick.
Immediately after the surgery, Fabienne resumed taking her Chinese herbal medications.
I had brewed tea already, so I started drinking the tea right away.
I would say she did very well with surgery because we did all of those works. Without those work, I would say her surgery probably not going to be that smooth and the results not going to be that easy.
Post-operatively, after any surgery, I think it's an excellent idea for patients, especially in Fabienne's case, to really try to maximize their health and healing afterwards. So for someone who has been receiving acupuncture, that the person maximizes that to promote their healing.
I started the acupuncture maybe a week or two after the surgery. Now I'm feeling great. I've got amazing energy. I started enjoying life again.
Today, Fabienne is back in full health, and her journey has taught her valuable lessons.
I'd have to say that having a life-altering health experience is the best thing that ever happened. I've gained so much. I've learned how to not just accept what people tell you about how it's going to be.
This whole thing that Fabienne has been through, I'm very proud of her. I'm really sort of amazed at what she was able to do.
I think she's a very grateful person. I think that she's very proactive about her health. And I think that her awareness of the depth of experiences that she's had and how she helps herself is just going to carry her through for the decades to come.
What Fabienne really did was take responsibility for the circumstance that she was in and do everything that she could do. And I've watched other people not do that because they were scared. And I understand that fear because I don't know that I would have done what Fabienne did.
Despite the joy and relief she felt in overcoming her brain tumor, there was a strong longing in Fabienne she feared might never be realized.
Fabienne and Jeremy were very excited to have a family. They were very ready to have a family. They'd been together and planned for this, and I think it was a disappointment to her to find out that she might be considered high risk, or she might not ever be able to have a family or to have a pregnancy and birth her own child.
To realize her dreams, Fabienne returned to the healing method she trusted had helped to save her life.
We also try to help her to get pregnancy and just balance the hormone. Before she's imbalanced, we help her hormone glands to relax and able to function normally again.
The doctors had said that I may have difficulty getting pregnant and wouldn't hold a pregnancy to term. I did not have a problem getting pregnant at all.
After all the health trials she had been through, Fabienne's pregnancy was a problem-free time of high humor. In May of 2001, Miles Aaron Tobeck was born. A younger brother, Ezra King, followed almost 5 years later. Dr. Maria Otavi delivered both children.
I think all the different modalities that she used to have a healthy pregnancy were helpful to her, and I certainly think they were helpful to me taking care of her as the pregnancy went along.
The evidence of all the work that she did, because she was so motivated, is right there. And they're really healthy, great kids.
It's a great thing to be a mother to giving and teaching, educating your kids. So I think she's learning a lot from that too.
Oh, wait, what about this one? The greatest thing that I've gained is that you can create balance in really getting in touch with who you are. My journey is not anybody else's journey. It's about finding what's authentic to you and finding what balance means for you.
I think Fabienne's case is a wonderful example of somebody who's continued to do well over the 10 years since her surgery. She has her children, she's healthy, she's aging beautifully, and she is continuing to actualize all the different modalities that have helped her so much in the past and will hopefully guide her way throughout the future.
Today, Fabienne is a healthy mother of 2 wonderful boys. She has returned to film and is vital and active. Most importantly, she shows no sign of the pituitary tumor that once plagued her.